When pursuing Aliyah as a married individual from the United Kingdom, one of the most critical documentary requirements involves the proper authentication and presentation of your civil marriage certificate. This process demands meticulous attention to detail and unwavering adherence to Israeli governmental protocols, representing a cornerstone requirement that cannot be circumvented or substituted through alternative documentation. Israeli immigration authorities maintain absolute requirements for the presentation of your original marriage certificate as issued by the official government body of your country of marriage. This document must bear the authentic seals and signatures of the issuing authority and cannot be substituted with photocopies, certified copies, or any alternative documentation, regardless of their official appearance or source. The authentication standards maintained by Israeli authorities reflect their commitment to preventing fraudulent documentation and ensuring the integrity of their immigration processes. Beyond your personal marriage certificate, Israeli immigration authorities frequently require the civil marriage certificates of your parents as an essential component of establishing Jewish heritage and family lineage under the law of return. This requirement stems from the fundamental need to trace Jewish ancestry through documented family connections, particularly when claiming Jewish status through maternal or paternal lines. Parents' marriage certificates serve as crucial links in the genealogical chain that validates your eligibility for Israeli citizenship under Jewish ancestry provisions. The necessity for parental marriage documentation becomes particularly critical when your Jewish heritage derives from family lineage rather than personal conversion. Israeli authorities must verify the Jewish status of your ancestors to confirm your eligibility under the law of return, and parental marriage certificates provide essential evidence of family structure, naming conventions, and genealogical connections that support heritage claims. These documents often contain vital information, including Hebrew names, religious designations, and community affiliations that strengthen the documentation of Jewish ancestry. When parents were married in different countries or at different time periods, their marriage certificates may require varying levels of authentication, depending on the issuing jurisdiction and the specific requirements for international document recognition. This complexity can significantly extend the documentation timeline, as each parental marriage certificate must undergo the same rigorous authentication process required for your personal marriage documentation. The possession of a ketubah, the traditional Jewish marriage contract, does not fulfill this fundamental requirement under any circumstances. Regardless of whether your marriage ceremony included extensive religious elements or was conducted entirely under Jewish law with proper rabbinical oversight, the civil marriage certificate remains an absolute and non-negotiable requirement for the Aliyah process. Israeli immigration authorities recognize only civil governmental documentation for official immigration purposes, maintaining clear separation between religious ceremony documentation and civil legal requirements. Beyond the original certificate itself, Israeli authorities mandate apostille certification, a specialized form of international document authentication established under the comprehensive framework of the Hague Convention. This apostille serves as definitive governmental verification that your marriage certificate is genuine and carries legal validity for international recognition across participating nations. The apostille represents more than administrative formality. It constitutes international legal validation that enables Israeli authorities to accept foreign documentation with confidence in its authenticity. The apostille process involves submitting your original marriage certificate to the appropriate governmental authority in your home country, where trained officials conduct thorough verification of the document's authenticity before attaching an official apostille seal. This authentication process validates the document's legitimacy for use in international legal proceedings, including Israeli immigration processes, and ensures compliance with international standards for cross-border document recognition. For marriages that took place within the United Kingdom, the authentication process involves specific governmental bodies and established procedures that must be followed precisely to ensure successful processing. Your original marriage certificate must have been issued by either the General Register Office or the local registrar office where your marriage was officially recorded and entered into governmental records. These institutions represent the only acceptable sources for UK marriage documentation in the Aliyah process, and certificates from alternative sources, regardless of their apparent authenticity, will not satisfy Israeli immigration requirements. The documentation of parental marriages becomes increasingly complex when parents married in different countries, particularly if one or both parents originated from nations that no longer exist or have undergone significant political changes since the time of marriage. Historical marriages from former Soviet territories, Eastern European countries under previous political systems, or regions affected by major boundary changes may require specialized research and authentication procedures that extend well beyond standard processing timelines. Once you possess the original certificate issued by the General Register Office or local registrar, you must obtain apostille certification through the UK government's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. This department serves as the sole authorized body for providing apostille authentication on UK civil documents intended for international use, maintaining exclusive jurisdiction over this critical authentication process. No alternative governmental agency or private service can provide acceptable apostille certification for Israeli immigration purposes. The process requires submitting your original marriage certificate to the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, accompanied by appropriate fees and complete processing documentation as specified in their current requirements. Processing times can vary significantly based on application volume, seasonal demands, and internal processing procedures, making early initiation of this procedure absolutely essential for timely Aliyah applications. Applicants should anticipate processing periods that may extend several weeks or longer during peak periods. When parents' marriage certificates originate from countries other than the United Kingdom, the authentication requirements become substantially more complex. Each country maintains its own apostille procedures and governmental authorities, necessitating separate research and application processes for each parental marriage certificate required. Some countries may have limited apostille services or extended processing times that can significantly impact overall Aliyah timeline planning. This documentation requirement represents a non-discretionary element of the Aliyah process that admits no exceptions or alternative approaches. Failure to provide properly authenticated civil marriage certificates will result in immediate application delays or outright rejections, regardless of the completeness or quality of other documentation submitted. Israeli authorities maintain these strict standards for document authentication as an integral component of their commitment to thorough verification of applicant eligibility and prevention of fraudulent immigration attempts. The Israeli immigration system operates under comprehensive legal frameworks that require definitive proof of marital status for multiple purposes, including family reunification rights, spousal benefits, and accurate demographic record keeping. These requirements extend beyond mere bureaucratic procedure to encompass fundamental aspects of Israeli civil law and immigration policy that cannot be waived or modified for individual circumstances. The requirement for parental marriage certificates also serves to establish family naming patterns and genealogical consistency that supports overall heritage documentation. Israeli authorities examine these documents for consistency in family names, dates, and locations that corroborate the applicant's stated family history and Jewish ancestry claims. Discrepancies or gaps in parental marriage documentation can raise questions about heritage authenticity that may require additional supporting evidence or extended review processes. Prospective immigrants should begin this authentication process well in advance of their intended Aliyah timeline, allowing sufficient time for both apostille processing and any potential complications that may arise during the authentication procedure. Complex cases involving name changes, multiple marriage ceremonies, or documentation issued in different jurisdictions may require additional processing time and specialized handling that extends standard timelines significantly. The authentication process also involves financial considerations that should be incorporated into Aliyah planning budgets. Both the Foreign, Commonwealth, and Development Office and Israeli immigration authorities impose fees for their services, and these costs can accumulate substantially when multiple documents require processing or when expedited service becomes necessary due to timeline constraints. When parental marriage certificates require authentication from multiple countries, these costs can multiply significantly. Document handling during the authentication process requires particular care to prevent damage or loss that could necessitate complete restart of the procedure. Original marriage certificates represent irreplaceable documentation, and their loss during processing can create significant delays while replacement certificates are obtained and subsequently authenticated. Prospective immigrants should maintain detailed records of all submissions, tracking numbers, and correspondence related to the authentication process to facilitate resolution of any complications that may arise. The successful completion of marriage certificate authentication represents a crucial milestone in the Aliyah documentation process, establishing one of the fundamental eligibility verifications required by Israeli immigration authorities. This achievement enables progression to subsequent documentation requirements while ensuring compliance with Israeli governmental standards for immigrant verification and civil status confirmation.